Hello everybody, today I'm going to be counting down the top 10 movies of the decade, so anything from January 1st, 2010 to January 1st, 2020, that means it could be on this list. So I want to start out by saying that everything on this list is going to be in my own opinion, so just keep that in mind. And also, these are pretty short reviews, so it's not like a full review or anything, so let's get right into it. Coming in at number 10, released in 2017 by Chris McKay, we have Lego Batman, the movie. This movie is just really funny. It has a lot of good jokes. Now, the plot follows Batman and Joker and their regular feud, and the city realized that Batman really hasn't caught any villains, so they kind of say that they don't need Batman anymore. So Batman gets kind of sad, and at this ceremony party thing that Batman goes to, he adopts a kid, and it just turns out really funny. And he kind of doesn't want to take care of that kid because his biggest fear is losing a family member again. So that's why he doesn't want to really take care and adopt that kid. But toward the end of the movie, he just realizes to love a family again because Joker releases all of the villains out of the Phantom Zone, and it kind of causes chaos, and it literally almost breaks Gotham. And it's turns out to be kind of funny, but that Batman kind of comes over his fear of, being scared to lose a family member again, and he loves and accepts that he's a part of a new family, which I think is a great number 10 spot on the top 10 movies of the decade. So, that was number 10. So, number 9 is The Dark Knight Rises. This is a great trilogy. This is an overall good movie, and it has great special effects, good characters, and an interesting plot. So released in 2012, directed by Christopher Nolan. So to summarize this up shortly, a lot of crime has been happening in Gotham, and because Batman technically disappeared, Bane, the villain of the movie, destroys a lot of stuff and causes a rampage, even makes Bruce Wayne bankrupt. So now earlier in the film, Batman teamed up with Catwoman, and she leads him into Bane's trap. Bane breaks Batman's back, and Batman gets taken to the underground prison where Bane grew up. So during this, Bane turns something under the city into a nuclear bomb, and Batman has to take care of this. So Batman goes to fight Bane, and during the fight of Bane, Talia Ghul, Ra's al Ghul's daughter, turns that bomb on. So Batman has to take care of that, and Batman flies over the bay and the bomb explodes. Now, I was really never able to understand if Batman survived or not, but either way, if Batman survived or he didn't, it's still a pretty good ending to the trilogy. So that was number 9 of top 10 greatest movies of the decade. So sorry for having 2 Batman movies in a row. Number 8 is Tintin. Tintin is just such a really good movie, has a lot of good action and great plot. This movie is so good. This is an animated movie released in 2011, directed by Steven Spielberg. So one day when Tintin is shopping, he buys a model ship, which later he realizes that it had a clue for hidden treasure. Someone tries to buy the ship off of him. Tintin says no, so he gets kidnapped and his house gets trashed, and now he's stuck with a drunk Captain Haddock. Now, after they crash and end up in the desert, Haddock remembers a bit of his past and finds out that there was 3 model ships, each including a clue to the treasure. So after that, Tintin and him both agree on going and finding the treasure, and the movie ends. And I remember waiting outside of the theater that day and thinking, wow, there really should be a Tintin Part 2. Sadly, there never was a sequel, but this is a pretty good movie. That was number 8 of best movies of the decade. Here we have Last Blood at number 7. This is the last movie in the Rambo series, which follows the character, the Vietnam veteran, John Rambo. So when John Rambo's daughter wants answers about her dad that left her, she was told not to go off to Mexico, but she goes off to Mexico anyways and finds her dad, and her dad basically tells her he never wanted anything to do with her. So her friend won't let her drive home and sells her out to human sex trafficking in Mexico. When Rambo finds this out, he confronts the gang, but he gets beat up pretty badly after this. He gets taken to a doctor and recovers. Then he breaks into one of the gang's locations and kills everyone at that specific location. He takes his daughter Gabrielle back with him, but she dies on the way home because of too much drug injections that they filled her up on. Rambo, filled with pain and anger, kills one of the Martinez brothers, leaving a trail of his blood all the way to Rambo's trap. So he kills everybody in the gang, and it's really just a sad, emotional story, and it's a really good movie. This is so real. That's why I've always loved the Rambo movies, because they're so real, and they always highlight like a real world thing, they're not just like any old movie. So that was number 7 on greatest movies of the decade. And here we're at number 6 with Iron Man 3. I love this movie. It has a special place in my heart. I just really, really, really love this movie so much. I remember going back in the movie theater, seeing this movie with my dad. It's just so good. Like I said, this movie was made in 2013, directed by Shane Black. This movie deals with Tony Stark having anxiety issues and PTSD over what happened in Avengers in the alien battle, while also a fake terrorist known as the Mandarin badly injures Tony's assistant, Happy Hogan. Tony gets mad at this, and he reveals his home address, and his home gets destroyed, and Tony Stark kind of goes missing. Meanwhile, Aldrich Killian, the main antagonist of the movie, kidnaps Pepper Potts, Tony's girlfriend, and finds out that the Mandarin was a fake terrorist, and Aldrich Killian was the bad guy all along, and he was doing some weird fire experiments on people. Now this movie is so good because of Tony's character arc in this movie, because he changes for Pepper and destroys all of his suits, and he has real heart surgery done to him. This is just so good, and a great ending to Iron Man 3, and a really good trilogy. So that's number 6 on the best movies of the decade. So here we are at number 5 with Shrek 4. Now, I really like Shrek 4. It was released in 2010, directed by Mike Mitchell. And I really love this movie because it dives deep into the characterization of Shrek, and a lot of people don't like it because it's not as funny as 1 or 2, and I totally agree with that, but this movie isn't supposed to be as funny as 1 or 2. It dives deep into the emotional characterization of Shrek, and that's really good. That's why I love this movie so much, and it's a good conclusion to everything in the Shrek franchise, I guess you could say, or the Shrek story. Now, I really like this movie for so many reasons, but it has a really good plot. So the plot kind of goes that Shrek makes a deal with Rumpelstiltskin, and Shrek is tricked pretty much by Rumpelstiltskin, saying that he could go back in time for a day and where ogres were feared, because Shrek doesn't like it in present time because everyone takes Shrek as a joke, and Shrek doesn't like that. So Shrek gets tricked, he runs into Donkey, and no one really recognizes Shrek in this world. It's pretty funny how he tries to get Donkey to recognize him, but I really love this movie. It's so good. Shrek actually cries in this movie. Shrek cries. He hasn't cried in any other Shrek movie. Shrek cries. So it dives really deep into the emotional characterization of Shrek, and I really like that about this movie. That's why it definitely deserves the number 5 spot on the top 10 movies of the whole decade. Alright, so here we are at number 4 with Toy Story 3. Oh my gosh, do I love this movie so much. This movie is next level. I don't even know if you guys can handle it. So released in 2010, directed by Lee Unkenrich. I hope that's how you say it. So this movie starts out with Andy going off to college, and the toys are all afraid of being left in the attic and forgotten and never being played with again. Andy decides to take Woody with him to college, and the toys get mistaken for trash. They all survive, but they decide they want to get donated to the daycare. Now Woody tries to talk them out of it, but it's too late before they end up at the daycare. So everything seems kind of friendly at first, but Woody still is loyal to Andy. So he tries to go back to Andy's house. He escapes the daycare, but he gets stuck at Bonnie, a little girl's house, and he finds out the tragic backstory of that daycare and the evil bear that rules it. So the evil bear gets trapped in the dumpster with them as they try to escape and make it into the landfill, and all the toys think that they're going to burn to death and die, and it's all really emotional. They all hold hands, and it's just crazy how sad this is. I really love this movie, so I think this is a good number 4 spot. So that was number 4. So number 3 we have Logan, back in 2017, directed by James Mangold. Logan is getting old and his healing power is slowing down, and he's struggling to take care of Professor X as a new league of child mutant soldiers is being made in a science lab not far from them. So it turns out one of those child mutant soldiers is Logan's daughter, Laura. So to protect her, he has to take her to Eden, which is like a safe haven for all those child mutant soldiers. So Eden is far away, and throughout the whole movie they come across a lot. So at the beginning, they hardly escape from Donald Pierce, and Donald Pierce basically has to take Laura back to where she escaped from. So Logan barely gets away, and later on he goes through Laura's phone and sees the truth about the mutant kids, that they're being soldiers and they're just being treated like things, and there's just a hard emotional story throughout the whole way, and it's so good. And they're basically being raised as weapons and not people. So they find a place to stay at an old farmer's house, and Donald Pierce finds them, and Logan battles his clone and kills Professor X, which is one of Logan's greatest friends, and that's really sad. So after this, Logan battles his clone again, and he protects Laura, and Logan dies, and he dies so good. I feel like this is, in my opinion, just the best superhero ending, superhero death, and superhero conclusion ever. That's why it's the number 3 on this list. So let's get into number 2. So at number 2 we have John Wick 3. I was really contemplating between which one should I make number 1 and which one should I make number 2, but I had to choose John Wick 3 for number 2. So released in 2019, John Wick 3 is directed by Chad Jasinski. I hope that's how you say it. So John Wick 3 takes place literally right after John Wick 2, where he kills D'Antonio on continental grounds, and he's on the run after being claimed excommunicado from the High Table with a $14 million bounty on his head. With action throughout the entire movie, there's literally action the whole movie, action left and right. A lot of movies only have action, at that ending scene and the climax scene. This movie has action throughout the whole movie, and it's so good. With a great ending, John Wick 3 is just so good. It was my favorite movie of 2019, and the story flows along pretty simple with him needing help from friends along the way, and it's pretty good. So I just love this movie so much. Winston turns on him at the end, and it just leaves John Wick on a cliffhanger ending where he's found on the street, nearly dead. So that was number 2, and let's get right into number 1 because I'm so excited. So here we are, we finally made it to number 1, and number 1, it's Joker, man. It just has to be Joker. I truly think that Joker is the movie of the decade, and I just love this movie so much. So Joker 2019, directed by Todd Phillips in obviously 2019. This movie is awesome. Within the first, 5 minutes of this movie, you could already tell that, Arthur Fleck, the Joker, Arthur Fleck, is mentally disturbed and messed up in the head, and it's so good. Being rated R, you could really explore into the mental illness and mental side of Joker and how messed up he can really get from society treating him the way society treats him, and it's just so good. And you could tell how much emotion Joaquin Phoenix put into portraying that character, and it's just so good. I love this movie so much. There's not really too much action in it. It's really like an emotional drama, I guess you could say. There's no Batman. He doesn't fight anybody. It's literally a battle between his mind and society, and that's why this movie is so great. I can't wait to make like a full whole video on this, just me talking and loving about this movie, because there's so many good things to say about this movie, and I love it. It does so many things so well and so many things so good, and it nails them so good. Everything it does good, it just nails them so good. I love this movie. This movie deserves like Oscar or something. Like, man, I love this movie so much. It's just really good, and that's why I think this movie truly is the number 1 movie of the decade. Well, guys, that was my top 10 movies of the decade. Thank you guys so much for watching. Man, I can't believe there's just so many good movies. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. If there was anything, maybe movies you think should be on the list, or maybe movies you didn't think were good, or just comment your favorite movies, something about movies I should review. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, leave a comment below.